Hello, and welcome to Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dora Mendez. I am the founder and CEO of Coach Dora LLC. Our guests will be entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders that drive social impact. It can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. Hello, and welcome to Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dora Mendez. Thank you to all our listeners and viewers. And if you're new to our podcast, please like, share, and subscribe on YouTube by clicking that subscriber button with the bell to get notified when new content gets posted. So we're always thrilled to have you here. Since launching Building Leadership Community Podcast, the journey has been nothing short of transformative. As a champion of inclusive leadership, growth, and connection, Season 2 is all about deepening the conversations and expanding our impact. At its core, Building Leadership Community Podcast is about fostering authentic leadership and empowering professionals to build stronger, more engaged communities. Every episode dives into strategies, insights, and personal stories that help leaders navigate their leadership journey with confidence and purpose. Let me tell you more about today's guest. I'm especially excited for today's conversation because I'm welcoming someone incredibly close to my heart, and that is my remarkable sister, incredibly talented theater artist, Rocío Mendez. Yay! Round of applause. Just recently, my family and I had the wonderful opportunity to visit Rocío in beautiful Ashland, Oregon, during a much-needed spring break. It was such a rejuvenating time, filled with relaxation, connection, and creating those precious family moments. A true highlight was seeing Rocío shine as a guest artist at the renowned Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Witnessing her artistry firsthand and spending quality time together in such a picturesque setting was truly special. Those moments of exploring the beauty around us and celebrating Rocío's artistry were so important to recharging and appreciating the incredible talent within our family. Beyond her captivating performances, Rocío has carved a unique path as a leader in the arts. Today, I'm thrilled to delve into her leadership journey as an artist, exploring the challenges, triumphs, and insights she's gained along the way. Get ready to be inspired by the conversation I'm about to have with my youngest sister, Rocío Mendez. All right, Rocío.
Hi. That was so sweet, Dora. Thank you.
Welcome to the stage. I could say more, but I don't want to start crying and getting emotional. Before we get into your conversation, I think I'm going to read your brief bio, so that the audience gets a sense of your leadership background. It's short, so you're just going to have to sit there and listen to me read and say more nice things about you. So Rocío Mendez is an award-winning actor, fight and intimacy director, and a proud New Yorker, committed to building confidence in brown and Black girls through storytelling. Rocío has done multiple independent films showcasing their talents in martial arts and comedy. Rocío has worked on Broadway and with a range of theaters nationally, including the Public Theater, New York Theater Workshop, Atlantic Theater Company, and the Classical Theater of Harlem, among many, many, many others. Rocío has been nominated for multiple awards for their fight in choreography and movement. Rocío is a team member of the Uncle Dave's Fight House and the resident intimacy director at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. That's your bio, and we're gonna add your website RocioMendez.com in the episode description so people can see for themselves your profile, your headshots, your videos, and I've seen all these things many times. So let me hand the proverbial mic over to you with our first conversation prompt. Can you share a little bit about your leadership story and your career trajectory with our audience and viewers?
Yeah, of course. In the beginning, when I was a wee one, I wanted to become an actor, and that was kind of like what I was focusing on, as you know. And I would tell the world I went to a performing arts elementary school, high school.
You
so
went to to
um,
the same high school as Timothy Chalamet.
I did go to the same high school as Timothy Chalamet, which is really funny, LaGuardia School of Performing Arts. And then eventually went to an acting conservatory also for acting, obviously. But luckily, I had a very good background in movement, dance, and martial arts. So I was just always a really good mover. And we were required at the school I went to take something called stage combat. So it ended up being one of my favorite classes. I really loved it. I thought it was so fun. And one of my teachers, who then became my first mentor out of college, encouraged me to pursue fight choreography just as a side hustle, just as something that I could do as well as try to act and audition and all that stuff. But she was like, you could also make money doing this and be a part of the theater, and you love it and you're good at it, so might as well. So I took her advice, and it sort of snowballed, and I started fight directing more and more and more. And there's like national workshops you could go to, and there's places you could get certified from, which I went to. Then I met another mentor who who really opened my eyes to thinking of fight choreography in new ways. Um, and I consistently participated in some type of martial art throughout my whole life. So that's also really important
I
to me.
remember when you took
And then I stumbled
I remember
upon,
when you took Muay Thai.
yeah, yeah, for a really long time. And I still take it here in Ashland, which is really great. Um, And then when I worked with Uncle Dave's Fight House, Dave Otsuelo, that's when I started some of my intimacy work and journey. He was an intimacy director and had done some intimacy stuff. So he started giving me some really cool vocabulary tips and tricks on how to choreograph scenes of intimacy. And then I ran into a woman who started an organization, Intimacy Directors International. Her name is Claire Warden, and she ended up mentoring me as well. And basically, I became this fight and intimacy director. And it's so niche that, it's sort of like 10 to 20 of us just kind of became the intimacy people in the United States, like quite
Yes, you
literally.
are a leader in the industry, and it's much needed.
uh,
I know in the movies
yeah,
there's a big controversial case about the fact that intimacy
yeah,
coordinate how important it is for actors to feel
and
safe
it is
and the safety at work. Can you tell
totally.
us? Well, first of all, there's two things would like for you to talk about. First one, I noticed you said mentorship. And since we are
Mhm.
building leadership community, I think mentorship is really an important part of supporting leaders because my tagline, it can be lonely at the top but it doesn't have to be, and mentorship is
Yeah,
really important. But I just wanted to lift that up, and it's something that's very important to what I do, for my students at the college, and then as a leadership coach. Can you share a little bit more about like how you got into the intimacy directing part and how important that job is, that role is to the theater?
yeah. I mean, I got into it because I was hired to actually do a sexual assault scene at a college, an undergraduate program, and it's a college that I'd been working for already for almost a decade. So they have been used to hiring me as a fight choreographer all the time, including something as serious as choreographing a sexual assault in a play. And this is when intimacy was really coming into starting to get a buzz, and they hired an intimacy director to come in to work with me. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like this is some new vocabulary that like I've never heard. This is really cool. And I was like, I want to sort of lean more into this just to be a better fight choreographer. But as life does to people, it just ended up snowballing, and I ended up becoming a certified intimacy director, um, through one of the first organizations that had that possibility for you to get obtain something like that. So that's how it started. And like I said, and out
Can
of
you
that, I met.
share why it's so important to sort of the culture and and the play
Yeah,
and
of course. Essentially, what intimacy direction does, or intimacy professionals in general do, is we not only do we choreograph, right? We choreographers, so we choreograph scenes of intimacy, but we're also there to make sure that everyone has a voice in the room, that everyone has like autonomy with their bodies, everyone has a voice, and people are consenting to the actual work they do. So there's conversation around choreography. We don't just do it. We don't just go out there and be like, okay, do this thing. But we first have conversation, understand and learn about boundaries and body autonomy, and showing people that there are many ways to tell a story. So if someone doesn't want to be touched somewhere, or for example, or there's all kinds of consent out there. But let's just say, for example, someone can't be touched at a specific place of their body, we work around it to create the illusion, right? Or just not touch it at all. So we're there to help build creative ways so that performers, actors can work without having that sort of paranoia, or having to like just squish down their emotions or what's really happening to their real selves and their body just for the sake of art. So they're not sacrificing themselves for the sake of art, but able to work through it in a way where they can build a sustainable, fun work environment where their needs are met.
so it's safety. So you create safety, but help the storytellers while
Yeah.
creating that safety. So I think of um, that is really important to lead that and sort of be a culture builder. Um, and so what another really important thing is sort of I always ask, you have such a unique career trajectory, and then you landed into this sort of the top tier in this field, right? And you travel all over the country, and it's it amazes me. So can you share about how how do you like blend into the because you come in and you do a specific thing. So how do you
Mhm.
I don't know how to say it. How do you like integrate yourself? How are you able to take the lead when you just like come in, do your thing, and how do you sort of
Mm.
like help how do you do that? Like how
Yeah.
do you put yourself in there?
Yeah.
Because it
Oh,
takes
that
a
is a great
strong I
question.
mean it takes a strong you have to have you
Yeah.
can't be a wallflower to do that.
No, I mean, I think, now that you're asking me, I'm like, how do I do that? But I think just understanding the value of what I do is helpful. And understanding the value of what I do gains me the confidence also of what I do. So till this day, as an intimacy professional, I do get questioned by both producers, actors, directors, just because it's still so new. It's still newish. But I think that at the end of the day, I when that happens, I go in with even more confidence because I know I could prove them wrong. Right. So I think coming in with a mindset of like showing people what the value of this work is, showing people what the collaboration of this work can be, um, and ultimately showing people how it works, and that it's just good storytelling and good work as an artist. It's just good
I like
practice.
how you said collaboration because I think collaboration is important, and for me, community is about that. Is really an art. Good art is like collaborative. So thank you for
Yes.
elevating that. So you have such a unique career trajectory, and we ask every leader on our show if they could give advice to the next generation, or if you could go back and give your advice to your younger self, what would that be?
Well, I think the advice I would give to the next generation, which I think sometimes artists forget, is that both as a fight and intimacy director, always educating ourselves and keeping up with the times is really important. So I'm constantly making sure I'm going to workshops. I'm constantly reading the new fad book that's out about whether it's like first aid mental health, gender politics, gender identity, whether it's about anti-racism. I'm always making sure that I'm up on like what the world is, where the world is at, because that's actually very, very vital and very, very important to my work. So I think the advice I would give is remember that, like, even though I've quote unquote made it, that doesn't mean I stay stagnant in terms of what I do to educate myself, and continuing to know what's going on in the world. Also, it's a way to build community. Is I go to these workshops and suddenly I have a better community of professionals because I'm making sure to constantly educate myself, no matter where I get in the scale of my career. There's always room to learn and there's always room to adjust. And also, sometimes going back to the basics is just as important as learning something new.
So what I'm hearing you saying is continuous learning, continuous
Mhm.
improving is a part of your leadership style, making
Mhm.
sure that you, I think no matter what field you're in, professional development, leadership development is important. And I like how you said, like, no matter how high you get in the field, you're always learning, you're always educating yourself. And I like that, because you do that, you continue to build your network, your community.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think that's really great. So anything that you'd like to share with our any final words you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers about leadership, the theater, and the work that you do?
Um, Always support the arts. They're really important. and and also continue to listen to my amazing sister, Coach Dora. It's wonderful the work you're doing as well. And I love that you continue to uplift everybody.
Thank you. Can you share with our listeners and viewers how they can learn more about you and follow you on social?
Of course. On Instagram, I am at it's Rocío Mendez. My website is rociomendez.com. And the organization I'm full time with, as a resident artist, is Oregon Shakespeare Festival.
We're going to put all those links in the description of this episode. Um, and supporting the arts is so important, especially now. There's a threat to all kinds of funding for the arts. Um, I I think I had one more question for you about. I have to say, Ashland, Oregon was surprising. It was wonderful visiting you there, and it was wonderful visiting there native New Yorkers that we are, as house kitchen girls that we are. It was unexpected, and the shows were really fantastic. And so, if you're ever in Oregon, um,
Come visit.
so I want to thank you so much, Rocio.
I want to thank you.
And I want to disclose that it's not nepotism when you have, I interviewed mom. She kicked off the season, and so great leaders make leaders. So empowered women empower women. So it doesn't surprise me that we're both leaders and builders of community. So love you. Thank you for being here.
I love you too. Thank you.
You've been listening to Building Leadership Community. Watch on YouTube at Coach Dora and listen wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube at Coach Dora and visit me on the web at CoachDoraMendez.com. Hosted by me, Dora Mendez. Produced by Dora Mendez and Dylan Rogers. Graphics, editing, and sound mixing by Dylan Rogers.